The Silent Passenger. A taxi driver in Kolkata was driving home late one night. It was 1 a.m. and he had just dropped off a passenger at a restaurant. As he was waiting for the next one, a woman in her 30s got in. She was well dressed, but there was something about her that was off. The driver thought maybe she was a ghost. Throughout the journey, she didn't speak a word. She just stared out of the window. The driver was getting creeped out. He thought ghosts weren't supposed to be this quiet. Then, just as they reached a traffic signal, she suddenly vanished from the back seat. The driver stopped the car and turned around to find her standing by the side of the road. As the traffic signal turned red, people started getting down from their cars to take a look at the commotion. One of the locals said, "Did you see her? That's the ghost of a woman who died in a car accident a few years ago. They say her soul is stuck here and she wanders around in a taxi, never speaking a word." So, was she a ghost or just a very forgetful passenger? You decide. The meter hadn't even turned on when he saw her get in. In the rearview mirror, her face was pale and drawn, eyes staring blankly ahead. She hadn't even looked at him when she got in. That was unusual, but not his problem. He just wanted to get the fare and move on, but after a few minutes it became clear that something was wrong. Very wrong. It was late at night and the streets of Kolkata were dark. It was also raining, which made the city even more depressing. People were everywhere, but they were all strangers to him. No familiar faces, no regulars, no one he recognized. All he had was the woman in the back seat who seemed to have evaporated into thin air. He was driving her to Maniktala, a place notorious for its narrow streets and dilapidated buildings. He wasn't supposed to go there, but he needed the money. Plus, it was just another day in Kolkata where every street looked the same. So he pressed on. It was then that he heard it. A loud crash followed by a scream. He slammed on the brakes and turned around. A group of people had gathered around 2 bikes and a car. One of the bikes was lying on its side and a man was kneeling beside it. The other bike was still upright, but it looked like it had been abandoned. "What happened?" he asked one of the onlookers. "Some accident," the man replied. 2 bikers collided with each other. This guy on the ground was with the woman who was in the car. They say she vanished from the moving car. He pointed to the spot where the taxi had stopped. "She got out here, but how? Nobody knows. One minute she was there, the next she was gone." He thanked the man and continued on his way. He couldn't shake off the feeling that he was being watched. Every time he stopped at a traffic signal, he could feel eyes boring into him. And every time he turned around, he saw the same group of people staring at him. It was unnerving. He wanted to tell them to mind their own business, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. He was afraid of what they might do if he upset them. He tried to focus on the road, but he couldn't help glancing at the back seat every now and then. He wanted to see if his passenger was okay, but he knew it was pointless. He couldn't see anything in the dark. As he drove on, he began to wonder if the locals were right. Was his passenger a ghost? Had she come to seek revenge on him? He didn't know, but he was about to find out. He pulled up outside a house and the door opened before he even turned off the engine. His passenger got out without saying a word, then turned around and smiled at him. It was then that he noticed something strange about her. Her eyes were black. They were bottomless pits of darkness that seemed to suck the light out of everything around them. He stared at her in disbelief as she walked away. He wanted to call after her, but he couldn't. He was frozen in place like a statue. As she disappeared inside the house, he finally came to his senses and started to walk towards her. He had to talk to her, find out what was going on. He owed her that much at least. But when he reached the house, he found that it was empty. There was no one inside. He knocked on the door, but no one answered. He tried the handle, but the door was locked. He was trapped. Then he heard a voice behind him. "Looking for someone?" He turned around and saw a man standing there. He was tall and thin with a sharp face and eyes that glinted like knives. "Who are you?" the driver asked. "I live here," the man replied, "and this is my house. But I saw a woman come inside just now," the driver said. "Did she tell you my name?" the man asked. "No, she didn't," the driver replied. "Then there's nothing to worry about," the man said. "You must be mistaken." With that, he turned and walked away, leaving the driver standing there in the dark. He couldn't believe what he had seen. How could the man be so calm after what had happened? It didn't make sense. He tried to leave, but the gate was locked. He banged on it, but no one came to answer. He was trapped, and he didn't know why. Then he heard a voice behind him. "Are you lost?" He turned around and saw the same woman standing there. Her eyes were still black and bottomless, but now he could see something else, something that made his blood run cold. Her skin was gray, and her fingernails were long and sharp like talons. He tried to scream, but no sound came out of his mouth. He was paralyzed with fear as she walked towards him, her eyes boring into his. He wanted to run, but he couldn't. He was rooted to the spot like a tree. She was almost upon him now, and he could see the terror in her eyes. But it wasn't the fear that struck him dumb. It was something else, something that made him feel a sense of foreboding that he had never felt before. As she reached out to touch him, he saw it. Her hand was skeletal, like the hand of a dead person. He wanted to pull away, but he couldn't. He was mesmerized by the horror unfolding in front of him. Then she whispered in his ear, her voice a raspy whisper. "I need your help," she said. "I need you to take me home." He wanted to refuse, but he couldn't. Something about her, maybe her eyes or her voice, compelled him to do what she asked. He nodded his head slowly, and she smiled at him. It was a sad, wistful smile that tugged at his heartstrings. "Thank you," she said. "You won't regret this, I promise." With that, she put her hand on his arm, and he felt a jolt of electricity shoot through his body. It was a horrible sensation, like being burned alive from the inside out. He screamed and tried to pull away, but it was too late. She had already entered his body, and he could feel her presence growing stronger with each passing moment. He collapsed to his knees, his body racked with pain and fear. And as he looked up at the sky, he saw the last thing he would ever see: the woman standing over him, her eyes glowing red in the darkness. Then everything went black. When the driver came to, he was lying on the ground outside the house. The door was open, and the woman was nowhere to be seen. He sat up and looked around. Where had she gone? What had happened to her? He tried to stand, but his legs were weak and shaky. He managed to get up and walk unsteadily towards the house. As he approached it, he could hear voices coming from inside. He paused and listened intently. He could hear the woman talking, but it wasn't her voice. It was the same voice that had spoken to him from inside the house earlier. The driver's blood ran cold. What was she doing here? Why was she still in the house? He knocked on the door, and a man opened it. It was the same man from before, the one who had lived in the house with the woman. He looked at the driver, and his face contorted in rage. "You killed her," he snarled. "You killed my sister." Before the driver could respond, the man shoved him aside and stormed past him. He rushed into the house, leaving the driver standing there in shock. What had he done? How had he killed the woman? He had no answers, but he was about to find out. As he stepped inside, he saw the woman sitting on the floor. She was leaning against the wall, her eyes closed, a serene smile on her lips. It was clear that she was dead. The driver's heart sank. How could he have killed her? He had only touched her. He had never meant to hurt her. He heard a sob behind him and turned around to see the man kneeling beside the woman's body, tears streaming down his face. "You don't understand," the man said, his voice breaking. "My sister, she's dead because of you. You took her away from me. I'll never forgive you." With that, he stood up and lunged at the driver, knocking him to the ground. He rained punches on the driver's face, each one connecting with a sickening thud. The driver tried to defend himself, but it was no use. He was outnumbered and outmatched. The man beat him until his hands were raw and bleeding, then kicked him in the groin. The driver screamed in pain, and the man stood back, his chest heaving. "Now get out of here," he snarled. "Never come back." With that, he turned away, leaving the driver lying on the floor. The driver didn't move. He lay there in the fetal position, his body racked with pain and fear. He didn't know what to do, where to go, or how to escape the nightmare he had become trapped in. He had only wanted to help the woman, but now he had killed her and made the man lose his mind. He was responsible for the death of an innocent soul, and he would carry that burden with him for the rest of his life.